Proceed to roll my piece. Backwoods and the onion of green. Burn one, take a break in between.
You are listening to
Hey, we don't mind.
with show host Wood.
Hey, good evening, everybody, or good morning, good afternoon, whatever time you choose to press play. Once again, this is another episode of the Pay Me No Mind Show. This is your host, Wood. It's a special midweek show, trying to get something up for this big game coming up Saturday. You know which one I'm talking about. The Michigan State Spartans versus the Michigan Wolverines. That's number 7 and number 12 with a big showdown Saturday at 3:30 at Michigan Stadium. And I got a couple of guests on tonight. We're going to get into it. One is a returner, and we got one newbie, but he's a good guy, so I expect everything to go great. We'll take a look at last week's game. We'll talk about some random college, maybe even get into a little bit of pro stuff, but just some current events in the world of sports. We might talk about some early Heisman opinions or notes, how the playoff picture is shaping up in the college ranks, and we'll also, of course, we'll finish off with the big one this Saturday, and then also the returning guest, Mr. Ryan. He kind of got on me about doing a little bit of trivia from undrafted from last week's podcast. So I put a little twist on it. I'm going to throw some other names out there and we'll see. It's a little spin on that, but I'll get to that later on when we go into it. Before we do roll into the show, I just had a couple of quick words from Wood. And one, my thoughts are going out to Lamar Odom and his family. He was found unconscious yesterday. That's bad news when you have to get found by in those circumstances at a brothel. That's never a good thing. But obviously, though, nobody's trying to judge the man. We just hope that he comes out of this with, hopefully the same. But it sounds like it could be some kind of brain damage or just some impact from what I heard. It was a mix of possibly some herbal Viagra, a lot of liquor, and like I said, I think 2 of the ladies at this brothel came in and found him unconscious, and it took a while to get him to a hospital to get the proper care that he needed. So, like I said, well wishes are up for him and his family. It was a beautiful thing that some of the guys from around the NBA spoke on it and offered their support. And I thought I saw a picture of Kobe even going to the hospital that he was taken to. So that was a really great look if the Black Mamba did that. Also want to say, keep your head up, Nick Chubb. That was a terrible injury sustained. But, I'm sure a call from Gurley, the St. Louis Rams running back, could really put him at ease as far as, when he'll return to the field and resume his career. The NFL is still out there on the horizon, so keep your head up, get well. Another one we lost this week was Jamal Charles, probably a fantasy football favorite for a lot of people, but I think that's his second ACL, so that's a terrible thing. Coach Sark out of USC, he was terminated. Substance abuse problems just continued after having the incident earlier in the season, so he's out of there. Patton Hayden's up against the wall at USC to get the right guy in there. I'm kind of thinking Ed Orgeron from last year might have been a good look. I mean, he may not have fit into the whole Hollywood, West Coast, California life persona or the facade that we know about, but he got the job done. And now, here it is. It's like 4 coaches, I think, that have been facing Notre Dame in the last 4 years or something for USC. That's never a good sign. And in my last note, the ESPN guys, Fox Sports, all of the national outlets, they can play friendly about this because it is Coach Spurrier. And I'm not going to try to tear the man down, but come on, it's kind of obvious that that's not the way to handle this. To just lead a team at 2-4 and, clean out your office and say, hey, I had enough. I mean, his speech was good. I'm sure he handled this well with the kids behind the scenes. But he got this program in this situation, and I feel like they probably were going to extend him the respect of not getting him out of there, and firing him in front of the public. So I think, as a little bit of reciprocity, it was only the right thing for him to finish this out. He could have stood down there and been on the sidelines with the headset on, could have been unplugged, like the Red Hot Chili Peppers a couple years ago at the Super Bowl performance. He didn't even have to have a headset on, a live headset. But I think, as the season goes down the drain for the Gamecocks, it's not a good look that he's at home and is not experiencing, this miserable season that these kids are going to have to go out here and endure, and the rest of the coaching staff. And I think, honestly, a couple of years ago when Lattimore had his injury, after that, things kind of went downhill with Jadeveon Clowney. I really feel like that was kind of Coach Spurrier's last stance in the game, and he had finally had his team kind of lined up right to do something nationally. It didn't happen. And I feel like at that time, he really probably should have stepped down because he really just didn't have, a lot of kids in the pipeline to get things going back right down there at South Carolina. So, hey, I just think that's a bad look. How could a coach that gives up on his team, how could you look at those young men and try to encourage them in any way in life moving forward to do the right thing? And then because, you hit a real, an all-time low for, one of the game's best coaches. But, that's not how Bowden went out. So, like I said, I think that was just a bad look. But everybody else can pat him on the back and say that's just the old ball coach and et cetera, et cetera. But I just don't see it that way. So, look, I'm going to pay some bills, run a little commercial, come back on the other side with my guests. We'll get into just some current events. Give me a second.
You're tuned in to a one-take
Podcast production.
We are One Take Podcast Nation, bringing you quality on-demand audio in sports, entertainment, lifestyle, and more. You have podcasts from B. Meeks, Jim Shoe Johnny, show host Wood, and host of others from around the country. No matter what your sport is, we have it covered. So check us out on OneTakePodcast.com, or if you want to go straight to our podcast channel, visit www.otpn.us. That's otpn.us. Sponsors and podcasters are always welcome.
All right. So I'm going to let the cat out the bag. One of my guests was on last week for the first time, Mr. Ryan Haggs, at U of M fan follower on Twitter. And he's joined tonight by a partner of his named Jay. You can find Jay on Twitter at JBird1524. We're getting ready to chop it up on this big game that's coming up. Really quickly, I just want to say, shed a little light on my partners on the station, OneTakePodcast.com. B. Meeks is putting in a lot of work on the Heisman side, covering the Heisman rankings each week, talking about college football in general. I made a joke earlier that I'm kind of the Bob Levy or Roy Firestone host on the network. I kind of do sports-related stuff. I don't really hit it the way that he does, but you can check him out. Agree to Disagree. GoingFor2.com. Put up my first article there this week. You can check that out. But Going for Two is Jeff Lambert, the head of that outfit. He does a podcast on here as well called Press Coverage, which does handles a lot of daily fantasy sports stuff. So check us out. But fellas, how y'all doing tonight, man?
Not bad. How you doing?
Not bad. That's my man Jay. That's my man Jay that you heard. You're on here too, right, Ryan?
Yes, sir. How we doing tonight?
Great, man. Thanks for. I know we were considering getting back together after last week's game to kind of do a recap because we didn't get the preview show up early as we would have liked, but that didn't happen. But it is Wednesday, hump day, and we still got a couple of days to do some work here. So thanks for both of you guys joining Pay Me No Mind. What's going on, fellas? I assume besides just being Michigan fans, I assume that you guys check out a lot of other football. Anything else going on in the college ranks that's a shock for you, a disappointment, or, a highlight on your Saturdays?
Not really. I mean, everything pretty much pans out like expected. Michigan State dropped down again, but everything pretty much lined up as expected from the AP poll. What do you think?
Yeah, my only knock against what I'm seeing going on is the Big 12 kind of moving up, and it's like people are a little jaded, or the pundits and analysts and whatnot seem to be a little jaded with the high scoring. But I just want to know, what do they pay the defensive coordinators for in the Big 12? Because you constantly see the backs of the back numbers of these cornerbacks and DBs, running down the field chasing wide receivers as they're catching 70-yard bombs. So what are the defenses in the Big 12 doing? But other than that, yeah, just, like I said earlier with some of the coaching moves, it was kind of a quiet week. I think the game that we're getting ready to get into was kind of the big deal of the weekend. It was a big weekend for the Big Ten Network, actually having 3 top 25 teams back to back on there. So that was a good look. I told you guys won. Oh, well, actually, Jay, did you have any thoughts on the college game?
I'm kind of disappointed to hear about Florida's quarterback get suspended for that failed drug test.
Yeah, I didn't look into that one too deeply. I'm not the biggest Florida fan, and but like you said, that is kind of that's not something that happens every year, that we lose a key player, on a team that's trending in the right direction, the way that the Gators are. So, yeah, that was a bad look for that university, and I guess, we'll see if they can execute a little bit of next man up type thinking down there. As we move on, any thoughts on the Heisman race? I'll be honest, I've left that up to my teammate, B Meeks, and his Agreed to Disagree podcast. He's been following that, updating that weekly. I don't know. I really haven't seen that type of Reggie Bush, Johnny Manziel, RG3. I just really haven't seen Mark Ingram. I really haven't seen that kind of guy out here this year, with the exception of Leonard Fournette. I mean, I guess in my opinion, he's kind of running away and hiding with the Heisman.
I agree with that. He's got to be the front runner right now.
Any close number twos, or somebody that could get in the picture? Any way you think Ezekiel Elliott, maybe with a couple of high games against some big names, you think he could get back in the race? Or him being an
Ohio State guy, I really think he's pretty good. You got to give it up to him. He's doing his thing. I say he's a step back in the Big Ten.
Yeah, I think there's still some time for. Ohio State's being criticized a little bit about how they're winning these games, but I mean, you turn around at the end of it, they still are winning by, except for Indiana. That one went down to the wire, but I mean, they're winning pretty convincingly in most of these games in the last 8 or 10 minutes. I just think sooner or later, offensively, they're gonna move away from plays and schemes with all these moving parts and just kind of simplify things. When you have the best players on the planet, you just need to keep it simple. But what about you, Ryan? Any Heisman thoughts, or that's just kind of not your bag at this point?
It's not really my bag at this point, especially with the OSU boys in the mix. You know how I feel about them.
Yeah, yeah, I don't have much to say. Like I said, the Heisman is just, in my opinion, the last several years, the Heisman races just haven't been what they used to be, in my opinion. But we'll see how it boils down. So, not much in the Heisman side, but we have learned a couple of things over the last 3-4 weeks of the season. How's the playoff picture looking for you guys? Jay, I'll come.
A lot of football to play.
Still a lot of football to play, you said?
Yeah, it's that playoffs. A lot of stuff going to happen, you know.